If you've ever been to Reading or Leeds Festival, you know it's a place where madness is just a part of the experience. But in August 2002, one band managed to raise that bar so high that even in Reading's long, chaotic history, the moment still stands out. And it came down to one very simple act. Greg Puciato, frontman of the Dillinger Escape Plan, did something unthinkable on stage. Now, before we get into the details of that infamous moment, let's back up, because to understand why this went down, you need to know where Dillinger were at the time, what kind of band they were, and why a midday festival set ended up turning into one of the most shocking things Reading has ever seen. The Dillinger Escape Plan were not a household name in 2002. And let's be honest, they aren't now. I only stumbled upon this story the other day and I'd never heard of them before. But back in 2002, they weren't big stars then either. They weren't on MTV, they weren't filling out arenas, and they definitely weren't headliners. In fact, they were the bottom billing of the main stage. At that point, they had one full-length album, Calculating Infinity, which had come out in 1999. I tried to listen to the record, but it's just not my thing. If you've ever heard it, you know it sounds like jazz, grindcore, and chaos just thrown together in a blender. But by the early 2000s, Dillinger were in transition. Their original vocalist, Dimitri Minikis, had left the band, and things should have really ended there. Instead, in walked Greg Puciato, a kid from Baltimore with a wild stage presence and a huge voice. He officially joined in 2001, and the band went from an underground secret to a bit of a cult act that people had to see live because they were so insane on stage. Still, they weren't welcome everywhere. When System of a Down invited them to open their European tour in 2002, Dillinger got booed every single night. Greg later admitted that they couldn't even hear themselves over the wall of hate coming at them from the audience. But instead of backing down, they leaned into it. And that's kind of just who Dillinger were. They loved the anarchy. So by the time that they walked onto the Reading Festival main stage in August 2002, they were already in a bit of a war mindset. Reading has always had a bit of a reputation for unpredictability. Well, just think about Nirvana's wild headline set a decade earlier. It's not just about the music, it's about the chaos that surrounds it. Just take a look at the lineup that Dillinger were playing alongside. The Prodigy headlining, Slipknot, NoFX, 100 Reasons, and then bizarrely bands like Puddle of Mudd and Incubus. It's kind of a weird melting pot of metal, bit of punk, new metal, and then some mainstream rock. Dillinger was slotted in on Sunday, August 25th, opening the main stage, which meant that they were playing to a hungover, ready to go home, sunburnt crowd. Probably weren't ready for a blast of technical chaos math rock first thing. And that's where things started to turn. Dillinger kicked things off with the song Sugar Coated Sour, and if you've ever heard that track, you know it's not exactly festival friendly. It's dissonant and violent. Within minutes of opening with the song, bottles are flying and middle fingers are going up at them. Look, for Dillinger fans, I'm sure it's heaven, but for everyone else, I'm going to be honest, it's unbearable. And that's when Greg decided that enough was enough. In the middle of the set, Greg did something that nobody saw coming. He calmly dropped his trousers and squatted on stage. At first, people thought it had to be a joke, but no. The man actually relieved himself right there in front of thousands of people. And he wasn't done. Greg scooped it into a plastic bag, held it up high, and addressed the crowd. This is a piece of and you're going to see plenty more of it on this stage today, so you'd better get used to it. Then, with a weird confidence, he hurled the bag into the audience. Chaos erupted. Kind of probably what he wanted. If that had been the end of it, it would have already gone down in festival history. But the crowd wasn't having it, and the bag came sailing back onto the stage. And that's when Greg decided to double down. He ripped it open, scooped out his own feces and smeared it across his chest like war paint. Down his face, across his shirt. People screamed, ran and gagged, and rightly so. I'm not sure I'd be able to take my eyes off the stage. And suddenly, the boos turned into stunned silence and disbelief. And then Dillinger just carried on playing. Greg took off his shirt, swung it around and hurled it dangerously close to the crowd. But by now, the smell must have been horrific. Band members powered through the rest of the song while their frontman turned himself into the most disgusting disgusting spectacle that Reading had ever seen. By the time they closed with the song 43% Burnt, Greg looked like he was seconds away from gagging himself, but he pushed through. So the set ended and then there was silence. Not cheering, not clapping, just silence, because everyone was thinking, what the hell has just happened? And here's the crazy part. It wasn't the end of the band Dillinger Escape Plan. Far from it. Instead of being blacklisted for this stunt, they went on to have one of the more respected careers in math rock and heavy music. They became the band known for chaotic and intelligent metalcore, influencing a whole generation of acts like bands like Architects and Code Orange. But no matter what they did, the Reading incident stuck to them. It was the story that followed them around for years, rightly so, and especially in the UK. Greg himself later admitted he was sick of hearing about it. It never gets brought up anywhere except the UK, he said in an interview. I just say the same thing I've already said. But naturally, fans are never going to forget that, because in the world of festivals, somehow, Dillinger managed to shock even Reading. Rock and metal have always thrived on shock value, like Ozzy biting the head off the bat. Bands want to push the boundaries of what's acceptable, and it's always been part of the deal for that kind of music. But Dillinger's Reading stunt is just different. It wasn't shock for the sake of shock. It came from a place of just frustration. For Greg, it was a clear statement. If you think we're fine, here's some actual. It was disgusting and far too extreme, but kind of unforgettable. And in a weird way, it cemented Dillinger's place in festival history. Was it disgusting? Oh god, yeah. Was it necessary? Absolutely not. But did it make history? Thanks very much for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.